Good evening, Linda. How are you doing? Hey, our shirts came in the mail yesterday, so we're gonna be styling it at on stage. um, just thought I'd let you know that, and I think I'll send it in the box that I might be sending you, Linda, ahead of on stage, so I don't have to worry about at the airport getting detained or anything for a pair of snips. Oh my goodness. So let me know if you can hear me. So two Lindas in the house. Oh my goodness, Linda, Minnesota. Oh my gosh. I could talk about this all night long. It was amazing. Um, it I guess you could say the stars aligned for us. I mean, we chose to go when we did. It's an eruption year, so there's more owls than normal, and the temperatures weren't bitter cold. It wasn't any different than here in Ohio, and so it was just the perfect trip. And we're already talking about going back next year. Hi, Jasmine. Oh, good. You can hear me just fine. Great. Hi, Mindy. Jasmine, how are things going out there in California? Hi, Marcia. How are things in Texas? I hope tonight's finding everybody doing well. And we'll get started here. Hi, Marjorie. In Northeast Indiana. Where in Northeast Indiana? I grew up and I graduated high school from Fremont, Indiana. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but we're north of Fort Wayne. We are over by Angola, but that is where I went to school from kindergarten on. Linda, so an eruption year is okay, let me start over. Birds will travel as far as they need to go to find food. And if there's a lot of one species in an area and not enough food to go around, they will start going wherever they have to go to find it. So you don't know if there's not enough food because their prey is scarce. A lot of the owls and stuff will eat voles, but it also could be that the reason why there's not enough food to go around because so many hatchlings made it. So you really don't know. But this is just an eruption year where we're seeing so many of your boreal species coming down from Canada, and you're coming down lower into the 48. So yeah, I don't know why, but they said that this was the last time they had an eruption of owls like this was 20 years ago. So I mean, this year was a good year to go. So yeah. Oh, Auburn. Oh, I remember addressing envelopes now. Please forgive me for not knowing that. So you know where Angola is. Hi, Lori. Okay, so there's quite a few on, so we'll get started. Yeah, Jasmine. Gosh, these disasters, it takes so long for communities to rebuild and heal, and it just never fails that another tragic natural thing will happen. And I don't think it's that anybody is forgotten about, but things shift into, okay, now we got to help over here and stuff. So it just seems to be really, really nuts that so much of the United States is experiencing devastating losses. Hi, Diane. Marcia used to live in Toledo long ago. I love Toledo. You know, Toledo, some people will complain about it, that there's not enough to do or this and that, but I'll tell you what, we've got the best park system and we're by the lake, and I just, you know, I don't know what more you're looking for. I love Toledo. My husband loves it too. We can find plenty of things to do. Hi, Vesta. Okay, so let's get started. Welcome everybody. If you are new and watching, tonight's kit together is the January Barn Quilt Block of the Month card kit. Every month, this is the only card kit that I do, and we do miniature quilt blocks. And they were in the card kit was inspired by the Barn Quilt Trail that was started here in the state of Ohio. And so every month there's 2 new designs, and you get the choice of receiving the kit via PDF, and you use your own materials, or you can get the PDF with a kit that will give you the card stock, the things that you need to make the card. Now you will have to do some cutting, but that's all in the PDF. It tells you, you know, what size to cut your triangles and your squares and everything. But there is a Google form that I ask you to fill out, because I use that information to set you up in PayPal to invoice you. And I didn't want to make this a subscription, so I let you come in and out as you want. So if you don't like a certain month, then when I see that you've ignored the invoices at the end of the month, I go and I delete unpaid invoices, and we'll just see what happens the next month. So there is a Google form on the Chirpy page. If you have trouble finding it, let me know. And you could get started as early as the February kit, which I'm going to show you when we're all done with January. Okay, so what inspired my colors for January was actually the designer series paper from the storybook suite. So it was these strawberries. So the colors in this designer series paper is what inspired the colors that are in the quilt blocks. Okay, I'm looking at my computer because I enlarged, zoomed in, and I want to make sure that I'm still in camera. So that's what inspired the colors that we're going to use. Also in the PDF, I like to give you an alternate project. It might be that I have resized the blocks to make them bigger in case you wanted to use them as a focal point in a card, but you want bigger pieces. Sometimes it's a fun fold. Like this is a vertical bookbinding card, and I've got a very narrow binding on the side there. But I just try to give you some different ideas, some different sizes, some different, you know, fun ways to use your quilt blocks. So before you put your quilt card, the barn quilt cards together, you might want to take a look and see what the alternative is, because you might have to cut things just a little bit different. You won't have to cut anything different for your blocks, but it might be trimming down the embossed card front that I include. You know, you just want to read over, you know how they say always read directions before you like do anything. It's a really good idea that you read the directions first in the PDF. Okay, so I'm gonna get my my PDF out of the way, but I am gonna use it just to remind myself the order that I had written it up as. When I'm doing things by myself, I tend to go off and, you know, just put it together my own way. But I want to make sure, since you're following along, that I am doing it in the order that you're following your PDF. Okay, So also during the live, I don't give out measurements. This is a kit that is purchased, and so I don't feel that it's fair to give out to the world all the dimensions. Okay, so I got all my pieces here. It's always a good idea to have a fine tip glue if possible. It's not necessary. But with these smaller pieces, I have found it to be very beneficial if you can get a fine tip glue. Hi, Karen. Oh, yeah, this is your first time? Yay! Hi, Barbara. Hi, Jean. Jean, thanks for sharing. Hi, Sharon. So do you have card kits to sell? If there's any kits left over, like when I think about preparing, I usually think about what is the average number of kits that are actually going out the door every month. And sometimes I will overmake, and if I have those available, I'll let you know. I mean, I know I have some left over from some different months, and I just have to pull all that together so that if you would be interested in a kit, then I could let you know. Okay, so we're going to start with block A. I think this is the easier of the two blocks, but it's also the one that is in your PDF first. So we're going to start with our cherry cobbler triangles. And for the most part, I build my quilt blocks from the inside out. Now, sometimes it's easier to get started on the outside, but the majority of the time I find that I start from the inside and I work myself out, so that if I started working on the outside and going in, if anything is wrong, by the time I catch it in the center of the block, I can't undo anything and I would have to start over. But if I start from the inside out and I see that things are getting a little big or whatever, then I can start making adjustments. So just different things to think about. I also encourage you to play with your pieces before you even put any glue on the back. If you can catch that your cutting was off, or maybe one of your triangles doesn't fit in one place, but it fits better in another, you're gonna catch all that before you start gluing down. So it's always better just to play around and get an idea for where your pieces are going. And we are going to work on the inside of our pencil line. So we're going to start in the center. And don't use too much glue. Remember, liquid glue will move underneath the paper. And you know what happens when you get glue on your hands? You will start transferring it everywhere. So keep your hands clean. Try not to use too much glue. And I don't like to push my pieces down right away, because I might have to adjust them a little bit. So I'll just sit them down in there, and then once I like everything, I'll give them a nice press and keep them there. I started up here in the upper left-hand corner, and what I like to do is I like to turn my block a quarter of a turn, and I know that this triangle is going to go right back up into that same corner. So my hands aren't trying to like adjust into weird positions. I'm going to the same corner each time. I'm going to turn it. It just makes it easier for me. And I think that from what I hear, it works for a lot of you also. Now here I've got a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to just try to squeeze these in a little bit more. just like in quilting, if you are worried, if you like your points, you know, matching up perfectly, that happens in quilt cards also. And I also find that when you turn your block, even a quarter of a turn, you get to see how things lined up from a different perspective. And as long as you don't push your pieces down and secure them really tight, you have a little wiggle room and you can make adjustments. So I'm inside the pencil line. I just want to clean up a little bit of glue that came out from underneath there. And don't be afraid just to pick up that piece and bring it closer to you so that you can see better. So there's the first start to our barn quilt. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in these old olive triangles. These are the largest ones that you had to cut. And that's going to be our next piece. And these are going to sit on the outside edge of our center, and our mountain to our triangle should always rest on the pencil line when we had done that grid. So this is what I mean. We're going to butt up to the cherry cobbler, and that point should be on the pencil line or close. Now, when we go to rotate this, I want to test it here. Does it go? Yeah. Again, I'm going to keep going up into that upper left-hand corner, because they're not all going to be going the same way. So you just can't assume that, what's my train of thought? I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so there's that triangle. Now I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn, and I'm going to go and I'm going to put it in the same spot as the last time. Okay? And then when we get back to the beginning of our block, they should all be pointing in 4 different directions. North, south, east, and west. The points should be pointing to. Whoops. It didn't want to come off of my finger. Okay. Turn it. Again, the peak of my triangle is going to sit on that pencil line. It's going to butt up to the cherry cobbler triangles one more time. Okay, so now that I'm happy with where they're sitting, I can make sure that they're secure and down on the base there. So you got kind of like this windmill-y thing going. It's like the blades might be like rotating this way to go up. And we're going to bring in the Calypso Coral triangles. Now, these are going to go right in this area that's empty in order to make like diamonds. Okay. So, your 90-degree angle on your triangle is going to sit right in that little space that's created for it. See how that like just snaps right down in there? That's where it's going to go. So as we fit those pieces in, just remember you're putting the corner of that triangle into the corner that was made by these two pieces right here. I kind of did a test run before the live tonight. I feel pretty confident that my pieces are going to fit where I put them, but again, I do encourage you to do a dry run just in case one of these triangles might fit better in a different spot, and that's usually because of our cutting, okay? It happens to me. Sometimes I have to cut another triangle because for whatever reason I was off and it wasn't lining up. So, you know, you just cut another one. It's just paper. Don't stress out about it. If it starts stressing you out, then that means it's time to cut another piece. It's not worth being aggravated. And I'm just making sure that that piece is snug right against the other two colors. Okay? Hi, Sherry. Welcome. And Vicky. Let's see, who else do we have here? Hi, Pam. Hey, Sandra. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to rotate my block again. It just makes it easier if I'm going to the same spot every time. And I know I could be using my reverse tweezers and making this look really easy, but those reverse tweezers, I have not gotten the knack to them. I just feel a lot more comfortable using my hands, although sometimes I feel like I'm all thumbs. So there's that one. See how we're putting the diamond all the way together? Now turn it one more time. Just gonna set that piece in there just to make sure before I glue it down. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to use these little squares of balmy blue. And these little squares are going to sit on point. And what I mean by on point is that we're going to set them so they look like little diamonds. And they're actually going to go in these valleys on each side of our barn quilt. And they're just going to sit in just like that. Okay, so set it on point. Again, I'm going to turn my block a quarter turn. These should sit really nicely in your valley. Okay, turn it again. We're almost done with block A. One more. And now I'm just going to press everything in so it's laying flat. Isn't that a beautiful, I just love this quilt block. And the last piece that we're going to put on our quilt block is a balmy blue square. And it's going to sit square in the center. And my four corners should almost be touching. They may touch, or it might be just a little bit of a space. But it should just nestle right in the center of this quilt block. Just want to make sure that it's straight. Again, pick it up, bring it closer to yourself. And that is our first barn quilt. Now, what I will do, I've got one done, so I'm not going to step away from what we're doing here. But I would emboss this. I love an embossing folder. It's retired, but it's called the Subtle Embossing Folder. I just want to add some texture. And when you put this in an embossing folder, or let's say you love the flat paint look, but you want to lay down all these little ridges that you've gotten from your cutting blade, then you could put this block between, maybe sandwich it between a couple sheets of copy paper and run it through your cut and emboss machine just to lay down the ridges and not give it texture. But I love the texture of the Subtle Embossing Folder. And so here is one. This is my block that's complete. I gotta clean up. Let me clean this old olive up. I got some adhesive on it. You want to be careful how hard you rub. And this might be why I didn't. There we go. I got it. But can you see the texture is just like a dry brush? It's like a linen look to it. But it smoothed out all of our lines, and it like melts the pieces together to make that seam look flawless. But it is not necessary to have that machine. So let's say, just for pretend's sake, I have done the embossing on this quilt block. Then I'm going to layer it on to the next size square. Nice little frame going on. And then it'll get glued down to our second frame. And not all monthly kits will have 2 frames. I like to max out the size to 2.5 inches. So depending on if I'm working with a 4-patch grid or a 9-patch, that's how many, that will determine how many frames that we have going on in the kit, okay? So I'm going to set this aside because I will do that after the live. And I'm going to set this finished one aside because that's going to go on our card. Hi, Becky. Do these blocks have names? Yes. I did not write them down. I'm sorry, Linda. They do have names. I forgot to write them down. A lot of blocks will change just by changing, let's say there's a square in there, they change it to a triangle. If you can get back to like whether it's a 4-patch or a 9-patch, you can usually get back to the traditional block. But quilt blocks are evolving all the time. And with every new design, just turning, maybe the name changes just because maybe the triangles are going a different way, or maybe the block is named after the person who came up with it. But I have a book that I got, and it's got over 5,000 quilt blocks in it. 5,000 quilt blocks. Some quilt blocks will have more than one name. It's very, very interesting. So Marcia, the explain your monthly kits again. Okay, so you have 2 options with the card kit. You can get just the PDF, and you use your own materials. You'll use your own colors. You probably not the same colors that I used, but you use your own materials. Then there's the option to get the actual kit where it's got the card bases, the embossed card fronts, the envelopes, the card inserts, and all the pieces that you need to cut, the colored cardstock that you need to cut to get those squares and triangles that you need to put it together. And you get the PDF with that. So either way, you get a PDF. It's just a matter of whether you want me to mail you the kit that's got, you know, the actual cardstock pieces to it. So invoicing happens on the 9th of every month. The kits get mailed on or very close to the 15th of the month. The PDF goes out via email a few days later. I like to time it that maybe you're opening your mailbox, there's your card kit. Oh, and here's my email. I can start doing this on my own. And then at the end of the month, I do a Facebook Live. So we just do a little kit together. Kathy, you got Barbara's book for Christmas? Yay. Kind of like just overstimulates it. Overstimulates you, right? Having 5,000 quilt blocks to look at. Okay, so let's get on to our second block. And that is this one right here. I love the little pattern that's going on in the center. Now this design was based on, to get the middle done, this would normally be seen in a 9 patch. But yet everything surrounding it, you could look at it as being a 4 patch grid. So we got into some measurements that we don't normally see because, yeah, you're trying to fit pieces designed for a 9 patch into a 4 patch. So it got a little tricky, but we did it. We did it. So I'm going to bring in all my pieces. Again, these 2 bigger squares are our frames. Okay, we don't need those right now. And to get started on block B, we're going to start. Now here's where normally, you know, I go from the inside and build out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to frame that center square, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to get those triangles that are in the center. So we've got 4 triangles that are old olive, and they're bigger than the rest of your triangles. And these are going to set on the outside edges in the longest part of this little grid that you created just to help keep you straight. So we're going to go around and we're going to put the triangle in the longest area of our little grid here. So your points should be ending up in the corners and right on the edge. If they go over a little bit like mine did, my point's a little bit long. It's okay. I am not cutting that point off for anything because I like my points. Okay. And so let's just keep, I'm going to actually set my block on point so that it's easier to set these triangles down. But I'm going to use that pencil line to line up the longest side of my triangle. And what I want to pay attention to is when I hold it up, this line right here, I want it to be as straight as possible. Okay, so this line right here, I want that to be as straight as possible. And we're just going to work our way all the way around. Your points along the longest side should be touching or very close to touching the point of the triangle before it. And the reason why we want a straight line is because we're going to be building on top of these pieces, and we want everything to line up really nice and straight. It's like, it's no different than sewing a straight line. We still want to line up our triangles so that everything is laying flush, which makes the next piece easy peasy to fit. Okay. Now here I'm in my cutting. The points are a little shy of meeting, but it's not enough for me to worry about and start over. When I go to add texture to my quilt block, it will probably, you won't even notice that little bit of a gap. If you had huge gaps where your triangles are meeting, then I would recut your pieces, but this is nothing to worry about. So now we're going to bring in the small triangles of Calypso Coral and the Cherry Cobbler. And we are going to make these pieces fit inside that square. Sometimes you might need to make minor adjustments, but when I lay my triangle down, I want to get my point, the tip, touching the bottom of that triangle that's sitting right above it. Now I'm definitely going to do a dry run here because this is going to probably get a little tight, but I definitely want to do a dry run. And I'm going to see how my point is going up there. I'm going to come down here with the same color, and I'm going to have my point facing down. But my point is touching the side of my bigger triangle, and the tip is touching that other triangle. Now these two should sit, these are sitting horizontally. These two triangles, and it doesn't matter which color you started off with, your other two triangles are going to be laying down. If you're looking at it this way, they would be vertical. Okay, so I just want to make sure, and the point will be going the opposite direction. And they should fit in there rather nicely. So once you're happy with how your triangles are laying, then you can start gluing them down. Hi, Lori. Hi, Vicki. Okay, so now I'm just going to move these out of the way. I'm going to keep them off to the side of where I want to put them. And I'll start up here in that upper left-hand corner. This tip is going to be heading north. This tip of the same color is going to be heading south. I guess you would say this is a mini version of like circling geese, because these are like would be flying your flying geese units if you were sewing, and they're just kind of rotating, so it's like a circle of birds that are flying around. This one is going to be pointed to the east. If I can pick it up without dropping it. So this little guy is going to be facing east. And you just want to just make sure that you're nice and your long side is nice and straight. This little fella here, we're headed south. Or no, we're headed west. We're heading west. There's no room to go south. Okay, just going to slide that in like a puzzle piece. And I'm just hoping to see a nice little square in the center that doesn't look too wonky. Okay, so there's the inside of our block. And now we are going to finish it with our balmy blue triangles. And these are going to sit in the outside corners. And again, your 90-degree angle is going to fit right into that 90-degree angle that was created when you drew your pencil lines to help keep you straight. So the 90-degree angle will always go into the corner. It's just you're matching corners up, okay? And we can put these down. So this weekend, you guys have me tonight, and I'm doing my Thursday Facebook Live tomorrow. This week had a lot of things happening, and I was freaking out trying to get everything done on a normal schedule, so I didn't have to change anything. And it's, you know, it's impossible. You can't do everything in one day. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just move my live to Saturday and get over it and move on to the next thing I needed to take care of. So that's the nice thing about you guys being flexible, is that helps me not stress out. I want to be consistent and show up at the exact time as I do every week, but life needs to be taken care of also. And so now it's like, okay, what can I move around? It'll eventually get done, maybe not on the day that it normally is, but it'll get done. Quit stressing about it. Okay, so there's that one, and then we just have one more. And this block is complete. Linda, your question about what the name of the blocks are, I'm going to remember that as long as I can find the name, that really needs to go in the PDF next to the picture of the quilt block. So I will try to be much better about that. And so there is our second block. And again, run it through an embossing machine to lay down all these ridges and make it look like the seams are seamless. And then layer your barn quilt to the first frame that's going to set it. And then this gets added to the second frame. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to use the block that was my example for on the cards that we're going to put together now. Is there any questions? Hi, Shirley. Okay. Okay, looks like you guys are saying, just talking amongst yourself, which is great. Hey, Betty. Thank you for being here. We'll bring in our card bases. So I've already put together, you'll need to cut down your card insert and your embossed card layer. I've already cut those down to 4 by 5 1/4, and I've already put them inside the insert inside the card base, and the texture of our building or, you know, the surface that our barn quilts are going to be sitting on, that's already glued down to the front of our card. I like to pop up my barn quilts with dimensionals to look like they're sitting or, you know, on the side of a structure. Before I go putting them down, I want to play What if I turn that square on point? Do I like the pattern because it changes? Let's see, where's like an original one here? Here we go. So this is square, and this is what the block looks like if you were to set it on point. Okay, so you're going to want to know these things before you put the dimensionals on and put the barn quilt onto your card bases. I'm not really feeling this one on point. Sometimes when you change the angle of your quilt block, you'll find like, oh boy, I really wasn't so straight there, and it'll be more obvious where if you turn the block another turn, you may not see it. So you just want to play. And I think I'm going to keep this square. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. And I like to get my dimensionals right into the corners so that the corners don't curl up on me. And then we'll put one right in the center so that we don't have a sagging barn quilt. Okay. And just going to bring my card front in, and you just want to center it. And if, oops, we want to go over to the right a little bit. Don't squish it down until you know that it's where you want it and that it looks even. Okay, I'm going to just go with that. So there is one, and here was that other one. Now we're going to bring in block A. I'm going to flip it over. Now this one, I might play with this one on point. Notice I did put this one on point for that alternate card or alternate idea that comes in your PDF. Again, the alternate might just be resizing the blocks so they're bigger. It could be a different card layout. I've done a box before. You never know what your alternate is going to be. And you don't even have to use the alternate. I just love options. And so I want to give as many to you as possible. Okay, so there is where when it's square, we'll put that over here. Now, if I like my piecing, I might go on point. I don't. I can see where I am crooked here. So this block is not going to go on point. But now look at that. When I turned it on point the other way, I'm a little more straight. You just got to play. But I'm just going to go square. I'm just going to keep it square. And you know what? That square, I don't like how things lined up. This is better. Okay. So there are the 2 cards for January. Okay, those are our 2 quilt blocks for January. And now, whenever I do a Facebook Live for a kit together, I show you what the next month is going to look like. And let me just stall you for a moment. I thought I had it out here, but I don't. Okay, so I've been playing with the Meant to Be designer series paper. That's what we used last week in the live, and those colors that are in that designer series paper inspired the colors that we're using for February. So here are the 2 barn quilts for February. Now this Shy Shamrock looks really loud underneath this white light, but it actually is very complimentary to the pool party. Oh, there on the computer, that doesn't look so bad. Okay. Right now under my lights, my white lights, this looks really, really vibrant. But it is actually a little toned down from what it may look like. And actually I love the color that the computer is picking up on. It should just be like that one darker shade than pool party. So these are the blocks that are going to be for February. If you want to participate, you've never participated before, I need a Google form from you because you're going to tell me how to invoice you with the kit or without the kit. And that Google form will explain how the barn quilt card kit works, what the contents are in it. And if you, now when you send it back to me, you're not going to get something that says sent or received. When I print off those forms, I like to send you an email thanking you for sending it in, and that acknowledges that I got your information. And again, invoicing will take place on the 9th of every month. You don't have to do every month. But if I see that for 3 or 4 months, let's say Mary hasn't done any of the kits for the last 3 or 4 months, I will suspend the series, because Mary can always come back to me and say, you know I wasn't getting them, but I want to get back in, and then I can start it over again. I don't want your email to have all these messages and emails from PayPal if you're not interested. I don't want to be a pain in the butt. So I will take the initiative to just suspend the series. And I know if somebody wants in, or they're like, I forgot, it's really easy to start back up again. I just don't want you to be getting email that you don't want. Now, most people will tell me I'm taking a break, or I'm going to pass on this month. And that's always good to know, because then I don't have to worry about whether you got the invoice or not. But you don't have to tell me. I usually figure it out by the end of the month. Katie, yes, if you would just send me another form, that's just to make sure I don't forget that you told me that you were interested in jumping back on board. I am old school, and I love paper trails. It might not be the best thing, but it's old school thing. I feel like I'm not forgetting anything if I've got a piece of paper in my hands. It just helps keep me on task and keep things in front of me. So if you would, I would appreciate it. Oh, Sherry, yes. So when I was trying to figure out color placement on here, the black just made everything pop. And with these bright colors, it was the way to go. I tried different things. I tried bringing in Daffodil Delight. Nope, yellow's out. I just could not bring that color in. But I got all the other colors, I believe. And the black is just stunning. Yay, Becky. Okay, so is there any other questions? Katie, so when you go to the Chirpy page, near the top, there should be, like, you'll see a pin that's got the host code for the month. If you swipe that right or left, you should get to the pin that is the Google form. If you have a hard time finding it, I know on devices it shows up maybe in a different spot. Shoot me a message and I will copy and paste it in our message and get it back to you that way. Okay? All right, everybody, that's it for tonight. This was the January kit together for the barn quilts. So we've got January, February, and I will hopefully see you back tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to do the live that I normally do on Thursday tomorrow. A very fun card. Oh my goodness. I'm going to make some more samples before tomorrow because it just is one of these patterns that will probably work with just about anything. And just a real pretty look to it. So I will see you tomorrow. Remember, when there's a Facebook Live, you can always come back later and watch the replay. That's all good. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Linda. And now next weekend is Card Play Online Retreat. Karen, Titus, Holly, Sutton, Batla, and myself, and Barb, and Julie. It's Friday night and all day Saturday. We're doing our online retreat. It's too late for you to sign up for the retreat and get the make and take. I mean, I have one kit left, but I doubt that you'll get it before. But if you don't mind getting a couple days later, you're just going to sit and watch the demos and stuff, then I do have one kit left. You'll have to message me and let me know if you want that. But if you just want the online option where you get the Facebook Lives, you get access to all the PDFs, we play games, there's prizes, there's still time to do that. And I've been sharing the link to the Google form on the Chirpy page for that as well. So if any of those things you find yourself interested in, but you're having just a hard time navigating the page to get the forms, shoot me a message and I'll copy and paste it to you. And we'll get you into our online retreat next weekend. Okay, with that, I am going to say good night to everybody, and I will see you back here tomorrow.